Hey everyone, today we're going to learn a beginner version of Santa Monica by Theory of a Deadman. We'll go through the chords used so that we're familiar and comfortable with playing them, and then move into how the song is played, verse by verse, step by step, nice and slow and together. Now the first thing you want to do before you start playing is be sure that your guitar is in tune. I suggest using a digital tuner so that your guitar can be in perfect tune. Today's song is played in standard tuning. Another good thing to do before you start playing is be sure that your fingernails are cut nice and short. This will allow you to press down onto the frets a little bit easier, and you can avoid any unnecessary muting or buzzing of the strings. Also, we're going to number our fingers so that when I explain to you which fingers to put on which frets to form a chord, you'll know exactly what I mean. So, finger number 1 is going to be our index finger, finger number 2 is going to be our middle finger, finger number 3 is going to be our ring finger, and then finally finger number 4 is going to be our pinky. Okay, now let's move into the next part of the video. Okay, before we get into tuning our guitar, I just want to let you know that the chords used throughout this song are in a power chord form. So if you haven't watched our power chord and octaves video, I suggest you go take a look at that and practice those before you try and play this song. Otherwise it might be a little bit difficult for you. But if you have, then this should be a cinch. Okay? Now we'll get into tuning our guitar, just in case you don't have a tuner with you. Okay, so we'll start out with tuning our big E string, and I'll give you the E string here. Okay, there's our E. Now move down to the A string. Okay, there's our A. Now to the D string. Okay, now move down to the G string. Okay, perfect. Now our B string. Alright, and last but not least, our high E string. Okay. Now that we're all tuned, let's move into the chords used throughout the song.
The next chord, E minor, is only using 2 fingers. Whichever 2 fingers is most comfortable for you is what you should use.
Okay, so the first chord we're going to use is going to be a basic E minor. Okay? So we're going to take our first finger and put it onto the 2nd fret of the A string. Finger number 2 is going to go on the 2nd fret of the D string. And we strum all 6 strings, okay? Should sound like that. Now we're going to move into a G 4-finger.
The next chord is a G major, or what I like to call a 4-finger G, where all 4 fingers are used.
So in this song he uses a 4-finger G. Now a 4-finger G is going to be using clearly all 4 fingers. And finger number 1 we're going to place onto the 2nd fret on the A string. Finger number 2 is going to come up here onto the 3rd fret of the big E string. And then fingers number 3 and 4 are going to come down here onto the B and the high E string. Okay? So our 4-finger G should sound like this. Alright? Next chord we're going to learn is going to be the D chord.
The next chord, D, uses only 3 fingers.
Okay, for the D chord we're going to use fingers number 1, 2, and 3. So fingers number 1 will go onto the 2nd fret of the G string. Finger number 3 is going to go onto the 3rd fret of the B string. And then finger number 2 is going to come down here onto the 2nd fret on the high E string. So, our D chord should sound like so. Okay, the next chord we're going to learn is going to be called a C add 9.
C add 9 uses the same structure as a G major chord and also uses all 4 fingers.
So C add 9 is going to be in the same shape as our 4-finger G, except it's going to be, instead of on the E and the A string, it's going to be on the A and the D string, okay? So finger number 1 is going to go onto the 2nd fret of the D string. Finger number 2 is going to go onto the 3rd fret of the A string. And And then just like the G4 finger, our third and fourth finger are going to stay put on the third fret of the B and the high E string. Okay? Our C add 9 should sound like this. Alright, the next chord we're going to use is going to be our basic C chord.
The next chord is a C chord. The C chord uses 3 fingers.
So our basic C chord is going to be using fingers number 1, 2, and 3. So first we'll put down number 3. It's going to be on the third fret on the A string. Finger number 2 is going to go onto the second fret of the D string. Then our finger number 1 is going to come down here onto the first fret of the B string. Okay, and our C chord should sound like this. Now this C chord is actually only used once throughout the entire song, and we'll get to where it is. The next chord is called a B suspend 4 chord.
B suspend 4 is in the form of a power chord and uses 3 fingers.
So for the next 4 chords, including this one, the B suspend 4, it'll be beneficial for you if you watch our power chords and octaves video. Because if you don't know how to do power chords yet, this might be a little bit tough, but I'm going to teach you how to do it regardless, and we can practice it together. So for our B suspend 4 chord, we're going to use fingers number 1, 3, and 4. So we're going to put our finger number 1 onto the second fret on the A string. Finger number 3 is going to come down here onto the D string on the 4th fret. And then finger number 4 is going to come right below it on the 4th fret on the G string. So with these 3 fingers down, we're going to play these 3 strings and the open B and high E. And we're not going to play our big E string. So what I try and do is I try and place my first finger just a little bit over the string so that when I play, I just kind of touch it with my finger. So this B suspend 4 chord should sound like this. Okay? Now the next chord we're going to learn is called a G add 6.
G add 6 is a G chord in the form of a power chord with 3 open strings being played, the G, B, and high E string.
Okay, so this next chord, G add 6, is also in a power chord shape. So what we're going to do is we're going to use our first finger to put down onto the 3rd fret of the big E string, and that's our G note. Our 3rd and 4th finger are going to go on both on the 5th fret of the A and the D string. Okay? So that's a power chord shape. Now this chord, we're going to play all 6 strings. So our G, B, and E string, the top 3 strings here, are going to be played open. So we want it to sound like this. Okay? Now, the next chord is called a D6 suspend 2.
The D6 suspend 2 chord is also a D chord played in the form of a power chord with 2 open strings being played, the high B and high E string.
Okay, again, the D6 suspend 2 is also in power chord shape, and it's going to be played on the A string way up here on the 5th fret. So we're going to take our first finger, we're going to put it on the 5th fret of the A string, which is a D note, and then our fingers number 3 and 4 are going to come down here onto the 7th fret of the D and the G string. Okay? And again, we're going to try not to play our big E string here. So we're going to take our finger and we're just going to mute it out just a bit so that when we play we don't hear it. Okay? So we're going to play all 5 strings except for the big E, right? It should sound like this. Alright, perfect. The next chord is a C major 7 chord.
The C major 7 chord is also played in the form of a power chord with 2 open strings being played, the B and high E string.
Okay, the C major 7 chord, again, is in power chord shape, it's going to be played onto the 3rd fret of the A string, so that's where our finger number 1 is going to be placed. And then again, finger number 2 and 3 will be on this 5th fret of the D and G string. And again, we're not going to play the big E string, so we're going to try and muffle it out with our number 1 finger here, just by touching it just a bit, like so. And we're going to play all the bottom 5 strings. Okay? So our B and our A string are going to be played open, like so. Okay? Okay. Great, guys. Now let's move into the first verse of the song. Okay, so the intro of the song incorporates some harmonics, which I'll cover in a more intermediate level video. So today I'll just go through the basic chords that he uses. So for the intro, he basically plays an E minor chord, then a G 4-finger chord, then do a D chord, and then he goes into a C add 9. So basically the harmonics go do 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 do. And that's the intro. So we can play that together. So again, it's an E minor, 4-finger G, D chord, and a C add 9. And basically all he does is on the E, he goes 1, 2, 3, 4. Just 4 strums. Down, up, down, up. Pretty simple. And he does the same thing on each one. So we can play that together with a small pause in between for the harmonics. So we'll go from the E minor to the G 4-finger to the D to the C add 9. Okay? So on the count of 3 we'll play it together. 1, 2, 3. Do 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 do. D, C add 9. Okay, that's the intro. He stays on that C add 9 for a few extra strums, and then he moves into the next part, which is called the verse. Okay, so to make this a little bit easier when you're transitioning from your E minor into your B suspend 4 chord, we're going to use, for this purpose, our numbers 2 and 3 fingers, okay? And what this will do is this will put your 3rd finger into a perfect sliding position to slide down to the 4th fret, which is going to put you into a good shape to start your B suspend 4 chord. So, I'm going to play through the rhythm so you know what it sounds like. And he only does his verse, he never changes his verse. So once you know the verse, you'll know the verse throughout the entire song. So I'll play it at regular time, and then we'll play it together nice and slow. So it incorporates an E minor, B suspend 4, G add 6, D6 suspend 2, and then a C major 7. And it sounds a bit like this. Okay? Let's do that nice and slow together, alright? So we'll start on the E minor, and then from the E minor, leave your 3rd finger on, lift this finger and slide up to the 4th fret here. Put your 4th finger down, and then put your 1st finger back down onto the A string. Okay? That's the best way to do that. And the same way, when you're up here on the D6 suspend 2, you're already in the shape. Keep your fingers on the guitar and slide them up. Don't lift your fingers up, and this is going to make it quicker for you, okay? Okay, now let's play this verse nice and slow together. From the E to the B suspend 4, G add 6, D, and then a C. And I'll just refer to them by, instead of their whole name, I'll just say E, B, G, C, D, etc. Okay? So here we go, from the E minor here. 1, 2, 3, E. B, G, D, C. Okay? One more time. 1, 2, 3. B, G, D, C. Okay. Now that is the whole verse and every verse from then on. Now we're going to move into the chorus of the song, which is a little easier to play because it's regular chords and not these power chord versions, okay? Okay, so for the chorus, he's going to play a basic E minor, then a G, then a D, then a C, add 9. Now these chords are identical to the ones that he plays throughout the harmonics in the intro of the song, okay? So I'll play them in regular time, again, just so you know what they sound like, and then we'll move into what we're going to do, playing it together nice and slow, okay? Here we go. Okay, now that's the chorus. Now during the chorus, when we play our E minor chord, to make it easier for the switch and make it a little bit more strategic, we're going to use fingers number 1 and 2, because changing from our E minor, using fingers number 1 and 2, to our G4 finger, our finger number 1 doesn't have to move. If we are using fingers number 2 and 3, then we have to move both those fingers off the guitar. So to make it more streamlined and a little bit easier, use fingers number 1 and 2 throughout the chorus for your E minor chord. Okay? Now we're going to go in and we're going to play it nice and slow together. Okay, on the count of 3, we'll start on the E minor and we'll go nice and slow together. 1, 2, 3. G to the D to the C add 9. We'll play it again. E minor, G to the D to the C add 9. Okay, perfect guys. Now right after the chorus, what he does is he goes back into the intro where he does the E, G, D, and C add 9 with the harmonics in between. Now we're not going to get into that because it's a little bit more of an intermediate video, but we'll do it later in one of the other videos. Okay? Now, from there, he moves back into that chorus with the power chord form chords. We already went through, and then after a second verse he goes back into the chorus, identical to what we just learned. Then he goes into a power chord bridge. Okay, now we're going to move into the bridge right now. Now you can either play it with power chords like I taught in our power chord and octave video, which is on our YouTube channel here, or you can play it in full chords, and I'll show you how to play both if you'd like to play it one or the other, your preference. We'll move into that now. Okay, so in actual power chords, because he plays it on an electric guitar with distortion, it's played like this. It's played an E power chord, okay, an F sharp power chord, a G power chord, and an A power chord. Then he does that again, except for after the G power chord, he goes to a D power chord. In regular time it sounds like this. Now, if you want to play it in regular form so that it's a little bit more of an acoustic style, what you can do is now we're going to play the E chord with our third and fourth finger. Now this is something we don't do very often, but in this case it works perfectly for what we need it to do. Because the reason, we're going to play our E minor like this. Our fingers number 2 and 3 never come off the guitar. We slide them up to the 4th fret here to play our F sharp power chord, but we play the power chord with hitting every string. Okay? A little bit of an eerie chord, but it'll work for what we want it to do here. And then move up again, so fingers number 3 and 4 don't move, to this G power chord. And then move up again to the 5th fret here, in the same form, with our A power chord. Okay? And then when we slide back down to the E minor, our fingers number 3 and 4 don't move. We just slide them right down. And then again the F sharp, G. Now this second time we have to move up to the A string to hit this D note, which is the same chord we used, the D6 suspend 2. And that works perfect for this bridge part. Okay? Now, right after the bridge, there's a little bit of a difference. He plays the intro version or the chorus version, one line of it. But what he does is he plays it really softly, okay? And instead of using a C add 9, this is when he uses the C chord, but just in this part of the song. So right after the bridge, he goes like this with his E minor. And he plays it really soft to the G, to the D, and he plays a regular C chord there. Now what he does is he plays that once through, just one line, the E minor, the G, the D, and then the regular C, and then the rest of the band kicks in and he gets a little louder, and then he plays the rest of the chorus regular with a C add 9. Now if you stick to using just the C add 9 and don't want to use that regular C, no one will ever know the difference, okay? So right after that he goes back into a chorus, and then he does a chorus again. He does the chorus twice at the end there, and that's the finale of the song. Okay? Great job, guys. Make sure you go back and you practice these, because those power chord versions of these songs are a little bit difficult. Now make sure you refer to the power chords and octaves video that we have here on YouTube, and that'll give you a little bit more of an understanding of what these power chords are and give you an opportunity to practice them. Okay? Perfect. Hey guys, great job learning Santa Monica by Theory of a Dead Man. Really practice, because those chords, like I said, they're a little bit difficult, but I think with a lot of practice you guys can do it. Now if you like this video and it helped you, don't forget to check out our other videos here on YouTube and subscribe to our channel. Okay? Good luck guys again, and thanks for watching.